As night slowly falls and the modern world begins to grow quiet, our minds sometimes drift back to questions from a very distant past. Before there were cities, before there were clocks, work schedules, or electric lights, how did our ancestors live? What did a typical day in the life of prehistoric humans truly look like? Were they constantly busy, stressed, and rushing as we often are today? Or did their lives unfold in a completely different rhythm, slower, more connected to nature, and perhaps more connected to one another? Many films and stories portray prehistoric humans as rough figures, struggling constantly to survive in a harsh and unforgiving world. But when archaeologists and anthropologists began to look more deeply into the traces our ancestors left behind, a different picture slowly emerged. They did not only hunt animals and shelter in caves, they told stories. They played music, they created art, they cared for one another and built small communities filled with meaning. In many ways, their lives may have been closer to the essence of being human than we often imagine. The Swiss psychologist Carl Gustav Jung once suggested that deep within the human mind, every modern person still carries ancient memories of our ancestors, symbols and instincts shaped across hundreds of thousands of years. Perhaps this is why when we imagine prehistoric life, a part of our mind feels strangely familiar with it, as if remembering a rhythm of living that existed long before written history. Welcome to Stories for Sleep, a place where stories of history, science, the universe, and the human mind are told slowly and gently, helping you relax before drifting into sleep. In tonight's video, we will travel back tens of thousands of years to explore a simple yet fascinating question. What did an ordinary day in the life of prehistoric humans actually look like? If you enjoy these quiet journeys through history and thoughtful stories about humanity, you may consider subscribing to Stories for Sleep so you won't miss future explorations. And now, take a slow breath in, let your mind relax, and join me as we begin a journey back to the dawn of humanity. Morning in the prehistoric world, when the first light of dawn begins to spread gently across the distant horizon of the prehistoric world. No alarm clocks ring. There are no crowded schedules waiting, and no pressure to hurry into a new day. People awaken according to a much older rhythm, the rhythm of light and darkness, of the cool air of early morning and the gradual warmth of the rising sun. Inside caves that open toward wide valleys, or in temporary camps built from branches, animal hides, and dry grass, small groups of people begin to stir slowly. No one truly starts the day at a precise moment. Instead, the day seems to emerge gradually, like morning mist slowly dissolving above the earth. A few people may wake earlier than the others, perhaps because of the calls of early birds, or because the fire from the night has begun to fade. They move quietly, placing a few small sticks onto the glowing embers. Soon, a thin ribbon of smoke begins to rise into the still morning air. If we observe this scene with modern eyes, it might appear almost too quiet, too slow. Yet for prehistoric humans, this was simply the natural rhythm of life, a rhythm not divided by hours or structured tasks. Carl Gustav Jung once spoke about the existence of archetypes within the human psyche, ancient patterns of experience formed through countless generations. Perhaps one of the oldest memories preserved in the collective human mind is this very moment of dawn, the soft light of a new day, the warmth of fire and the sense of safety that comes from waking among familiar faces. For hundreds of thousands of years, humans began their days this way, not in haste, not in stress, but simply by opening their eyes and gradually returning to the world around them. As the light grows brighter, other members of the group begin to wake. A child may turn beneath a layer of animal skins, rubbing sleepy eyes and looking up toward the cave ceiling, where faint traces of smoke still cling from the previous night. An older member of the group slowly sits up, pulling a fur cloak around their shoulders against the lingering chill of morning. There is no clear separation between waking up and beginning work. People simply return to the life unfolding around them. The first words spoken in the new day may be quiet ones. A few soft exchanges about the weather, about a strange sound heard during the night, or simply the gentle murmurs of a community gradually waking. At the center of the camp, the fire acts as the heart of the group. Fire provides warmth and light, but it also creates a gathering place, an invisible circle where people feel safe within the wild world around them. As the fire is rekindled from glowing coals, its warm orange light begins to dance across cave walls or tree trunks near the camp. In that moment, morning in the prehistoric world is not just the beginning of another day. It is the continuation of a chain of days stretching across countless generations. After the fire has been revived, a few members of the group may step outside the camp to observe the surrounding landscape. This is not a stressful task. It is simply a natural habit formed through thousands of years of living close to nature. They look at the ground for signs of animals. They listen to the wind and the birds to understand what may be happening in the forest or grasslands nearby. Footprints in the soft soil may tell a story. Perhaps a herd of deer passed through during the night. Perhaps a predator moved quietly near the area. For us today, reading such signs might seem like a nearly forgotten skill, but for prehistoric humans, it was simply part of living within the natural world. What is remarkable is that these morning activities rarely carry a sense of urgency. No one looks at the sky and thinks they are running late. Instead, time is felt as a continuous flow, not divided into strict measurements. The sun gradually climbs higher. The morning mist fades. The surrounding world becomes clearer. Within this slowness, there exists a deep form of peace, a peace that modern humans sometimes rediscover only when we leave cities and return to nature. Jung once suggested that much of modern psychological stress comes from living too far removed from the natural rhythms that shaped human evolution. In the prehistoric world, those rhythms remained intact. Morning was not a race against time. It was a gradual unfolding. People woke, listened to their surroundings, felt the light and the temperature of the air, and slowly entered the activities of the day. Within this unhurried pace, a natural psychological balance could exist. As the sun rises higher, the camp gradually becomes more lively. Children begin running around, exploring stones, branches, or anything that sparks their curiosity. Adults discuss the possible plans for the day. Should they follow the tracks of the animals discovered earlier? Should they move the camp to an area with more fruit-bearing trees? Yet even these decisions are usually made gently through conversation and shared agreement. If we pause and imagine this scene, we may realize something meaningful. Morning in the prehistoric world was not simply a time of day. It was a space where humans reconnected with their community, with nature, and with themselves. The light of dawn did not only illuminate the ground, it illuminated a way of living that shaped the human mind for hundreds of thousands of years. And as the sun continues to rise over that ancient sky, the new day of our ancestors truly begins, not with haste, but with a rhythm that is slow, thoughtful, and deeply human. The morning continues. As the sun climbs higher into the sky of a world without cities and without the noise of machines, its light spreads across the treetops, the cliffs, and the dew-covered grasslands. The first rays reach the small camp of the prehistoric group, revealing the simple details of their lives. Spears leaning against a rock, animal hides hanging from branches to dry, and the small footprints of children still visible in the soft earth from the night before. To us, their world might appear simple, yet within that simplicity exists a deep understanding of nature. A form of wisdom not written in books but stored within the memory of the body and the shared experience of the community. One person in the group may slowly step away from the camp and stand quietly for a moment observing the surrounding land. They listen to the wind moving through tall grasses. They hear birds calling to one another in the distance, and they notice the spaces of silence between those sounds. For modern humans, silence can feel empty, But for our ancestors, silence was a form of language. Within that quiet, they could detect subtle changes in the environment. A movement in nearby bushes, the passing of an animal, or a shift in the morning air that hinted at changing weather. Carl Gustav Jung once wrote that modern humans still carry within them an ancient memory of nature, a part of the psyche that remembers how to live in harmony with the natural world. Perhaps when we imagine mornings in the prehistoric world, we are touching that memory. There is something in that scene, the small fire, the wide sky, the sound of birds at dawn, that feels strangely familiar, as if somewhere deep within us we once lived by that rhythm too. Inside the camp, quiet conversations continue. One person recounts a dream from the night before. Another remembers the tracks of animals seen the previous day. Children listen with curiosity. In prehistoric societies, knowledge was not stored in books. It was carried through stories. Each story helped people remember the world where water could be found, where food was abundant, and where danger might exist. Gradually, morning becomes more active. Some members of the group begin preparing to leave the camp in search of food. Others remain near the fire, repairing tools or caring for young children. Yet, even as different activities unfold, the overall rhythm of the morning remains calm and unhurried. There is no rush. Their world is not measured by minutes or hours. It is measured by sunlight, by the changing seasons, and by the genuine needs of life. If we observe the scene from a distance, something becomes clear. Morning for prehistoric humans was not merely preparation for work. It was a moment of connection. People connected with their community, with the natural world around them, and with the deeper rhythm of life itself. And perhaps when we imagine those ancient dawns, we realize something simple but profound. Before humans became creatures of cities and schedules, we were creatures of the morning light, of warm fires, and of small communities living beneath the vast sky of Earth, the reality behind the image of cavemen. When we think about prehistoric humans, the image that often appears in our minds is that of rough cavemen, living in a cold and dangerous world, constantly struggling to survive. Films, comics, and even many popular history books have portrayed our ancestors as people who were almost wild, driven entirely by the instinct to stay alive. But when archaeologists began excavating ancient caves, hunting camps, stone tools, and the subtle traces of early art, a different story slowly began to appear. A story quieter, deeper, and far more human. Prehistoric humans were not simply creatures battling against nature. They were people with imagination, emotions, memories, and aspirations, living in small communities filled with meaning. In many caves across Europe, Asia, and Africa, scientists have discovered paintings created tens of thousands of years ago. Bison, wild horses, deer, and human handprints appear on cave walls in the red tones of ochre and the black of charcoal. These paintings are not random marks. They were placed deliberately, sometimes deep inside caves, where natural light never reaches. This means the people who painted them carried torches into the darkness and spent time creating images that held meaning for their communities. When we look at these drawings today, we do not only see animals. We see traces of human imagination, trying to understand the surrounding world. The Swiss psychologist Carl Gustav Jung once suggested that ancient art offers one of the clearest glimpses into the collective mind of humanity, a deep layer of psychology where symbols and stories are shared across generations. Cave paintings may be such symbols. They might have been ways to recount great hunts, to teach younger generations about animals, or perhaps part of rituals whose spiritual meanings we can only guess today. Whatever their exact purpose, one thing becomes clear. Prehistoric humans did not live only to eat and sleep. They thought, imagined, and created. Archaeology also shows that people of that time practiced complex rituals and traditions. In many ancient burial sites, researchers have discovered skeletons carefully laid to rest, sometimes accompanied by jewelry, tools, or flowers. This suggests that our ancestors had ideas about death and memory. They did not simply abandon the dead. they took time to honor and remember them. This act of burial carries deep meaning. It shows that prehistoric humans had already begun thinking beyond immediate survival. Within the small communities where they lived, relationships between people were extremely important. Hunter-gatherer groups usually consisted of only a few dozen individuals. Yet that very smallness created strong bonds. Everyone knew one another well. Someone might be particularly skilled at tracking animals. Another might know the healing properties of plants. Someone else might be the best storyteller when night fell. Children grew up not only in the care of their parents, but within the care of the entire community. A child might learn to recognize plants from an elder, learn to craft tools from a skilled maker, and learn storytelling from someone who had lived through many seasons. In such an environment, knowledge did not exist in books. It lived in human memory. Jung emphasized that humans cannot truly exist without symbols, stories, and social connection. In the prehistoric world, these elements were not luxuries, they were a natural part of life. When night fell and people gathered around the fire, they did not only eat and rest. They told stories, sang songs, and shared memories. The stories might describe the hunt of the previous day, a strange animal once seen in distant lands, or spirits believed to dwell in forests and skies. Whatever their content, these stories served an essential purpose, keeping the community connected and passing knowledge from one generation to the next. This makes the image of the rough caveman far too simple compared with reality. Prehistoric humans were not isolated individuals living in constant fear. They were members of complex social networks where cooperation and sharing were essential. A successful hunt required coordination among many people. A child needed the care of several members of the group, and when someone was injured or ill, others often helped, bringing food, tending wounds, or simply staying beside them. Archaeological discoveries even show that individuals with severe injuries sometimes lived for many years afterward, something that could only happen if their community cared for them. This reveals something deeply important. Compassion and care for others are not new values created by modern society. They have existed for a very long time, perhaps since the earliest days when humans began living together in groups. So when we imagine prehistoric life, perhaps we should adjust our perspective slightly. Instead of picturing a world filled only with danger and hardship, we might imagine a world where people lived close to nature, where small communities were deeply connected, and where art, stories, and rituals helped people understand their place in the vast universe. And in the quiet evenings around the fire, when the glow of flames danced across cave walls and ancient stories were told once more, our ancestors were not merely surviving. They were living lives filled with emotion, imagination, and meaning, not so different from what modern humans continue to search for today. Symbols, jewelry, and music. One of the most fascinating discoveries about prehistoric life is realizing that many aspects of modern culture actually existed long ago. For example, ancient jewelry found in caves, beads made from shells, bones, or polished stones, shows that humans cared about beauty and personal symbolism very early in history. These objects served no direct survival function. They did not help people hunt or gather food, yet they carried social and spiritual value. When someone wore a necklace of beads or a pendant made from animal teeth, they were not merely decorating their body. They were telling a story about themselves, about their group, or about experiences they had lived through. Jung once wrote that humans constantly seek to express themselves through symbols. For our ancestors, these symbols appeared as cave paintings, small ornaments, or rituals performed around the fire. They helped people understand their place in the world, not merely as creatures living in nature, but as part of a larger story extending across generations. Another remarkable aspect of prehistoric life is the presence of music. Archaeologists have discovered flutes made from bird bones or animal bones dating back more than 3,500 years. These simple instruments could produce soft melodies echoing through caves or across wide forests. We cannot know exactly what songs our ancestors once played, but we can imagine that music brought them moments of connection and emotion, much like it does for us today. Perhaps on long winter evenings, when wind moved across open plains and the sky was filled with stars, someone in the group might lift a small flute and play a gentle melody. Others might listen quietly, tap their feet softly, or simply sit together beside the warm fire. In moments like these, prehistoric life no longer resembles a constant struggle for survival. It becomes a space where people experience joy, comfort, and belonging. Archaeological evidence also suggests that prehistoric humans possessed the ability for deep, abstract thought. Small sculptures known as Venus figurines, carved from stone or ivory more than 25000 years ago, may represent ideas about fertility, life, or spiritual symbolism. These tiny works of art suggest that humans had already begun reflecting on profound questions of existence, life, death, and the continuation of generations. Jung believed that when humans begin creating symbols, it signals the emergence of a new stage of consciousness. Symbols allow us to think about things that cannot be seen directly: the future, the soul, or the meaning of life. When we look at ancient figurines and cave paintings, we are witnessing the earliest steps of that journey. So when we return to the original question whether prehistoric life was truly as harsh and simple as the stereotype of the caveman suggests, the answer becomes clearer. Life was certainly not easy. Nature could be harsh, and survival required skill and cooperation. But within those challenges, prehistoric humans also built rich lives filled with art, music, rituals, and deep social relationships. Our ancestors were not merely creatures surviving day by day. They were storytellers. They were dreamers. They were people searching for meaning in the world around them. And when we look back at their lives today, we may realize that many things we consider modern art, music, community, and connection have existed for a very long time, nurtured in ancient caves and beside small fires beneath star-filled skies. How a day begins after the soft light of dawn spreads across the valley and touches ancient cliffs. A new day in the prehistoric world does not begin at a precise moment. Instead, it unfolds slowly, like a gentle wave moving through a small human community. There are no alarm clocks, no written schedules, no idea that anyone might be late. The day simply appears as people begin to wake around the fire, the center of life, the source of warmth, light, and safety during the long night. A few people open their eyes first, perhaps because faint light enters the cave or because morning birds call through the cool air. They do not rush to stand up. Instead, they remain still for a moment, listening to the world around them, almost as if checking whether the night has truly ended. In that moment, prehistoric humans had a very different relationship with time than we do today. Jung once suggested that the ancient human mind was deeply connected to the natural cycles of the world, day and night, rainy seasons and dry seasons, the movements of animal herds. Time was not numbers on a clock. It was a flow of experience. Morning arrived when light changed, when air warmed, and when the sounds of nature became lively. And so as people slowly awaken around the fire, there is no pressure to hurry. The day has space to unfold. An elder might be the first to sit up, pulling an animal, skin over their shoulders, and gently stirring the glowing coals with a small stick. Tiny sparks appear. The fire begins to breathe again. Warm light spreads across sleepy faces, stone tools nearby, and the traces of yesterday's life. For prehistoric humans, fire was more than a tool. It was a symbol of community. It was where people gathered, where food was prepared, and where stories were told as night fell. So rekindling the fire in the morning was almost like waking the heart of the camp itself. Slowly, others awaken. A child rolls from beneath a fur blanket and rubs their eyes with curiosity. Someone stretches and steps outside the cave to feel the cool morning air. No one gives orders. The first movements of the day unfold naturally as part of a rhythm learned from living together. One of the first important activities of the morning is observing the surrounding environment. A few people walk slowly away from the camp, moving through nearby grass and bushes. They look down at the ground for signs that modern eyes might easily overlook: the track of a deer, the disturbed soil from a wild boar, or traces suggesting that a predator passed through during the night. These marks are like stories written across the earth, and prehistoric humans learned how to read them from childhood. They also observed the sky, the color of clouds, the direction of the wind, the moisture in the air. These signs help them predict the day ahead. Will the weather be warm or cool? Will rain come? Is it a good day for hunting or for moving camp? Today we might check the weather on a phone, but for prehistoric humans, reading the sky was a vital skill passed down through generations. It was a form of survival knowledge, built through direct experience with nature. Jung suggested that ancient humans lived in a world where everything carried symbolic meaning. The sky, the wind, the birds, the animal tracks, all were signals that people learned to understand. The world was not separate from humans. It was a living system of which humans were a part. Meanwhile, others remain near the fire. They repair tools, tighten leather cords, or share small pieces of leftover food from the previous day. Quiet conversations begin. Children run around the camp exploring stones, branches, and tiny footprints in the soil. In prehistoric society, learning did not happen in classrooms. It happened through observation and imitation. Children watched adults reading animal tracks. They listened to discussions about weather, and gradually they learned these skills themselves. What is striking is that mornings in the prehistoric world rarely carried a sense of stress. Even though the wilderness contained dangers, life still followed a steady rhythm. People were not driven by strict schedules. They were guided by real needs and by the signals of nature. And if we pause for a moment and imagine this scene, we may feel something surprisingly peaceful. No traffic, no emails, no endless lists of tasks. Only morning, light, bird song, the warmth of fire, and people slowly stepping into a new day. Perhaps it was in moments like these that a deep part of the human mind was formed. For tens of thousands of years, mornings unfolded in this way, people waking, observing the world, speaking with their community, and preparing for the day ahead. These rhythms became part of human psychological history. And when we imagine those ancient mornings, we are not only looking at a distant moment in history, we are also looking at a part of ourselves, a part of the mind that still remembers how to begin a day slowly, by listening to nature, and by feeling that we belong to a small community beneath the vast sky of Earth. A breakfast without a fixed hour. As the morning light spreads across the valley, and the warmth of the sun begins to chase away the lingering chill of the night, life in the small camp of prehistoric humans slowly shifts into another rhythm, the rhythm of finding and sharing food. Yet one interesting detail about that ancient world is that the idea of breakfast did not exist in the way we know it today. There were no fixed hours, no prepared dining tables, and no habit of dividing meals into 3 structured parts of the day. Instead, people ate when food was available, when their bodies needed energy, and when circumstances allowed it. Their lives were deeply connected to nature, and the way they ate was just as flexible as the environment around them. On many mornings, the first food of the new day might simply be meat left over from the hunt of the previous day. If a large animal had been successfully hunted, the meat would be shared among the group, and sometimes some of it would remain for the following morning. Pieces of meat might be warmed again over the glowing embers of the fire, releasing a gentle aroma into the cool morning air. People would sit near one another, passing pieces of food from hand to hand. Not in a formal ritual, but in a very natural way. Eating was not only about nourishing the body, it was also a moment of connection. When people shared food, they were also strengthening the relationships between members of the community. Yet meat was not always the main source of food. In fact, many studies of hunter-gatherer societies show that a large portion of prehistoric human energy came from plants. Seeds, berries, roots, tubers, and edible leaves played an essential role in daily nutrition. These foods could be gathered from nearby forests or open grasslands and carried back to the camp in baskets woven from grasses or tree bark. So on many mornings, the first meal of the day might simply consist of a handful of sweet berries, a few crushed nuts or roasted roots, warmed in the fire. For prehistoric humans, recognizing edible plants was an extremely important skill, almost an art. They needed to know hundreds of different plants, which could be eaten raw, which needed to be cooked, and which could be poisonous if prepared incorrectly. This knowledge was not written in books. It was passed down through observation and storytelling. An elder might show children how to recognize a safe fruit by the shape of its leaves or the color of its stem. Over many years, these lessons became part of the collective memory of the community. Besides meat and plants, prehistoric humans also used many other food sources that modern people rarely consider. Insects, for example, were rich in protein and easy to find. Larvae hidden inside decaying wood, large ant nests, or grasshoppers moving through fields could all become food. Fish were also an important source of nutrition for groups living near rivers or lakes. A simple spear or a small trap could sometimes provide enough food for the entire group. One remarkable aspect of prehistoric diets was their seasonal diversity. Spring might bring tender leaves and bird eggs. Summer offered berries and fruits. Autumn provided energy-rich seeds and roots. Winter, though harsher, could still provide meat from larger hunts. Because of this variety, the human body received many different nutrients, and meals rarely became monotonous. The Swiss psychologist Carl Gustav Jung once suggested that ancient humans lived in a deep relationship with nature, where everyday actions were closely tied to the surrounding environment. Eating was not separate from the natural world. It was part of a larger cycle, the cycle of life. Humans ate plants and animals, and when they eventually died, their bodies returned to the earth, nourishing new life. In the prehistoric world, this connection was not an abstract idea. It was simply the reality of life. Perhaps this is why even a simple meal could carry deep meaning. When a group of people sat around the fire and shared food, they were not only feeding their bodies, they were participating in a small ritual of community, a moment where life continued and human bonds were strengthened. Quiet conversations unfolded. Stories from the previous day were recalled. Children listened with curiosity. From a modern perspective, we may notice that prehistoric eating reflected a rhythm very different from today. There was no hurry, no rigid meal schedule. Instead, there was flexibility, adaptation, and a deep connection with nature. And perhaps within that simplicity lies a gentle lesson from prehistoric life. Human beings do not always need complex systems in order to live well. Sometimes a warm fire, a little shared food, and people sitting close together in the morning light are enough to create a complete moment of life. As the sun continues to rise and the day slowly unfolds, the small morning meal ends naturally. No one announces that the meal is over. People simply stand, stretch, and move on to the other activities of the day, carrying with them the energy from the food they have eaten and the quiet feeling that they remain part of the living world awakening around them. If we observe prehistoric eating habits more closely, we see that eating was not only a biological necessity, it was also a social activity, a way for the community to maintain cooperation and connection. In groups of 20 to several dozen people, food was rarely kept by a single individual. If someone discovered a source of food, a fish, a beehive, or a bush heavy with ripe fruit, it was usually brought back to the camp and shared. This sharing was not simply kindness, it was also a survival strategy, because on another day, that same person might need the help of the community. Jung suggested that humans cannot exist separately from their communities because the deepest structures of the human psyche develop through relationships with others. When we imagine a morning in the prehistoric world, people sitting together and sharing small pieces of food, We are witnessing one of the oldest foundations of human society cooperation. While adults talk and share food, children watch closely. They learn which berries taste sweet, which roots must be roasted before eating, and which insects can become nourishment. Learning does not happen through formal lessons. It happens through watching and imitation. Over time, these small pieces of knowledge accumulate into a deep understanding of the surrounding environment. Another interesting aspect of prehistoric eating is that the human body often adapted to periods when food was not immediately available. Not every day brought abundant resources. Some mornings the group might eat very little, perhaps only a few berries or some roots. Other days food might be plentiful. This natural rhythm between hunger and fullness was something the human body had adapted to over hundreds of thousands of years. In the modern world, we often try to regulate meals according to strict schedules, but for prehistoric humans, eating followed the rhythm of nature rather than the clock. If we imagine that morning scene again, we might see a small circle of people sitting around the fire. Some slowly chew pieces of food. Others stand up, preparing to search for more. Children laugh and run around the camp. Smoke rises gently toward the brightening sky. There is no dining table, no formal ritual. Yet one thing is very clear: people are together. And perhaps in such simple moments, when food is shared, stories are told, and morning light touches familiar faces, we can see something fundamental about human nature. Before restaurants existed, before menus and meal schedules, humans already knew how to sit close together and share what nature provided. Within that simplicity lies a unique richness, because the meals of prehistoric humans nourished more than the body. They nourished community memory and the sense that each person belongs to a larger story, the story of humanity living together beneath the wide sky of Earth. Gathering, the most important work. After the morning settles and sunlight spreads across the valley, one of the most important activities of prehistoric life often begins naturally gathering plants. When we imagine our ancestors, many people immediately picture dramatic hunts, humans chasing large animals across open plains with spears. But anthropological research over many decades reveals something surprising. For most of human history, the main source of energy did not come from hunting. It came from gathering plants. Seeds, berries, roots, tubers, leaves, and many other plants provided the majority of calories for daily life. This made gathering one of the quiet but essential foundations of prehistoric society. As the sun rises higher, some members of the group prepare to leave the camp. They carry baskets woven from grass or bark, and sometimes simple digging sticks used to uncover roots. They do not enter nature as strangers. The forest, grasslands, or rivers nearby are like a living map they know well. Each large tree, each cluster of bushes, each small path between rocks may hold a memory, a place where sweet berries once grew, a spot where edible roots appeared after rain, or an area to avoid because certain plants are poisonous. For prehistoric humans, plant knowledge was a complex form of intelligence developed through many years of observation. A skilled gatherer needed to recognize hundreds of plant species. They had to know which plants could be eaten immediately, which required cooking, which could only be eaten during certain seasons, and which might be dangerous. Jung once suggested that ancient humans lived in a world where nature was not merely an environment, but also part of psychological life. Every plant, stream, and hill carried meaning within the collective memory of the community. Walking through the forest to gather food was almost like reading a vast book, one written in leaves, roots, scents, and colors. Gathering was often done in small groups. Adults and sometimes children walked through familiar areas together. Children learned by watching. An adult might pause beside a bush and explain that a berry is safe only when it turns a deep red. Another might demonstrate how to dig up a root without damaging the edible part. These lessons were never written down, but they were remembered through repetition. Over time, knowledge about plants became part of storytelling traditions. Evening stories around the fire often included practical information where berries grow best, which seasons certain plants bloom, or which plants must be avoided. Stories became a way of preserving knowledge. Interestingly, gathering was not always difficult work. In environments rich with resources, people could collect large amounts of food within just a few hours. A bush filled with ripe berries or a patch of edible roots could feed the group. The rhythm of gathering was often relaxed. People walked slowly, talking, pausing to rest or observe the landscape. These journeys created moments of connection between humans and nature. The scent of damp soil, the sound of leaves beneath their feet, and sunlight filtering through trees became familiar parts of daily life. Jung believed that when humans live too far from nature, the mind can become unbalanced. In the prehistoric world, this connection was always present. Gathering did not only provide food, it maintained the bond between humans and the environment. When baskets filled with berries, seeds, and roots, the group returned to camp. What they brought back was not only food, it was the result of knowledge, observation, and experience accumulated across generations. And when the food was placed near the fire and shared, the community itself was strengthened once again. Hunting rare but important. When we imagine prehistoric life, we often picture dramatic hunts. Humans chasing large animals across open plains, spears in hand. But anthropologists now understand that hunting was not a daily activity. In many hunter-gatherer societies, hunting happened only when the opportunity appeared, when fresh tracks were discovered near the camp. Most days, gathering plants provided the majority of food. But when a hunt occurred, it became a special event, a challenge requiring patience, skill, and cooperation. A hunt usually began quietly, with a track, a fresh footprint in soft soil, a broken branch, flattened grass. To experienced hunters, these were stories written on the earth. They could identify the animal, its size, and sometimes even its condition. Jung once wrote that ancient humans possessed a deep, intuitive awareness of the natural world. When prehistoric hunters followed an animal across forests or grasslands, they were not only chasing prey, they were entering a complex relationship with nature itself. A successful hunt depended not on individual strength, but on cooperation. Some hunters moved ahead to block the animal's path. Others followed quietly behind. Small gestures and eye contact replaced loud communication. One remarkable human ability made hunting possible: endurance. Humans are capable of traveling long distances under the sun, especially in heat. This allowed a technique scientists call persistence hunting. Instead of outrunning prey, humans simply continued following it. Many animals can run extremely fast for short bursts, but humans can maintain steady movement for long periods. Eventually, the animal becomes exhausted. The hunt might last many hours, sometimes half a day. The hunters move across open plains, through light forests, and across streams. Each step requires patience and focus. Jung suggested that such intense focus on the present moment can resemble a form of meditation. In that state, the hunter does not think about the past or the future, only the next step, the next track, the next breath. When the animal finally collapses from exhaustion, the final moment of the hunt is often quick. A well-placed spear ends the pursuit, but afterward the animal becomes something more than food. It becomes a gift to the community. The meat is carried back to the camp and shared, and the hunt becomes a story. That evening, beside the fire, hunters recount the journey, the first track, the long chase, the moment of success. Children listen carefully, and through these stories, knowledge passes to the next generation. In many ancient cultures, hunting also carried spiritual meaning. Animals were often respected as part of the cycle of life. Some societies even developed rituals to honor the animals that provided food. Jung suggested that early humans lived in a worldview where humans and nature were not entirely separate. Animals were not merely prey, they were fellow beings within the same living world. And perhaps in those long hunts beneath the ancient sun, something profound about human nature became clear. Our greatest strength is not claws or sharp teeth. It is patience, intelligence, and cooperation. Through those qualities, humans learned how to live within the vast world of Earth. Toolmaking and handcraft. When we imagine the lives of prehistoric humans, the images that often come to mind are dramatic hunts or long journeys across forests and grasslands. Yet in reality, much of their time was not spent in those intense moments. Daily life in the camp usually unfolded at a far slower pace, and a large portion of the day was devoted to careful, patient work, making tools and practicing various forms of craftsmanship. In the gentle light of morning, or in the shade of a large rock, some members of the group might sit quietly, focused on shaping a piece of stone, sharpening a spear point, or working with animal hides. These tasks may seem simple from a distance, but in truth they require deep knowledge, skillful hands, and many years of accumulated experience. Stone toolmaking, for example, was far more complex than we often imagine. The craftsperson first had to select the right kind of stone, often flint, obsidian, or other materials that could fracture into sharp edges. Then another stone would be used to strike the surface at a precise angle, producing thin flakes that were as sharp as blades. Each strike required exactly the right amount of force and direction. If the blow was too strong, the stone might shatter. If it was too light, the desired edge would not appear. The process depended not simply on strength, but on experience, sensitivity, and intuition. Modern archaeologists who attempt to recreate ancient stone tools often discover that producing a complete knife or spear point is not easy at all. It can take hundreds of attempts before the desired shape appears. This reveals something important. Prehistoric humans were not simply working by instinct. They were true artisans, people who understood materials and knew how to transform a rough stone into a useful tool. Alongside stone tools, many other forms of craftsmanship took place within the camp. Animal hides obtained from hunts had to be carefully processed in order to become clothing bags or blankets. This process could take many days. The hides needed to be scraped clean, dried, and sometimes treated with fat or smoke to make them softer and more durable. Skilled individuals could then cut the hides into pieces and sew them together using animal sinew to create clothing or footwear. If we examine ancient bone needles discovered in archaeological sites, we find that they are remarkably delicate. A small needle with an eye carved from animal bone required extraordinary precision. This shows that prehistoric craftspeople had already developed sophisticated skills similar to sewing or leatherworking in later civilizations. The Swiss psychologist Carl Gustav Jung once suggested that an important part of the human mind develops through the creation and use of tools. When humans work with their hands shaping stone, carving wood, or stitching leather, they are not merely producing objects. They are also forming a deep connection between intelligence and matter. Each tool becomes the result of imagination, experience, and understanding of the natural world. During quiet afternoons in a prehistoric camp, when sunlight softens and the wind moves through the grasses, you might imagine several people sitting near the fire, absorbed in their work. Small flakes of stone fall to the ground. Gentle tapping sounds repeat rhythmically. Children may sit nearby watching and learning. They observe how adults hold a stone, how they rotate it to find the right angle, and how they patiently adjust their work when a fragment breaks incorrectly. Learning these skills does not happen in a single day. It can take many years. A child may begin by collecting small pieces of stone or holding materials for adults. Gradually, as they grow older, they begin attempting their own first stone flakes. Perhaps many pieces break before they succeed in making a usable tool. Yet through this process of trial and error, knowledge passes from generation to generation. These craft activities also create opportunities for conversation and social connection. When people work together, they talk, tell stories, and share experiences. Work is not an isolated task. It is part of communal life. While one person sharpens a spear point, another might recount a past hunt or discuss where the group might travel in the coming days. Jung believed that such moments when people work together while sharing stories play an important role in shaping the collective consciousness of a community. The tools themselves are not just objects. They carry the memory of the people who created them. When we look at an ancient stone spearhead displayed in a museum today, we see a small, silent artifact resting behind glass. But if we imagine more deeply, we might picture the hands that shaped it, the light of an ancient afternoon, and the quiet voices around a fire. That tool once belonged to a living world, a world full of motion, creativity, and connection. And perhaps it reminds us that humans have always been creative beings. Even in the most ancient times, long before cities or writing people spent time crafting tools, shaping useful objects, and creating things of beauty. In the quiet of a prehistoric camp between wind and firelight, those patient hands helped shape a crucial part of the human story. The story of turning imagination into matter and transforming the simple materials of nature into tools that allowed humans to survive, adapt, and create within the vast world around them. If we continue observing a prehistoric camp on a quiet afternoon, we might notice that tool-making was not merely labor. It also carried a rhythm similar to meditation. The steady tapping of stone against stone, the slow movement of hands polishing bone or cutting leather, all create a state of deep concentration. In those moments, the craftsperson is not rushing. They work patiently, knowing that each small step matters. Jung once wrote that part of human intelligence develops through direct interaction between the hand and material. When people work with earth, stone, wood, or bone, they are not only transforming matter, they are also shaping their own awareness. The hand, in a sense, becomes an extension of thought. Perhaps it was through these ancient craft activities that the deep connection between human intelligence and creativity first began to flourish. In many hunter-gatherer communities, individuals often developed specialized skills. Some people became exceptionally skilled at knapping stone, creating sharp and durable blades. Others possessed remarkable dexterity in processing animal hides, transforming rough skins into clothing that protected the body from cold. Still others excelled in crafting weapons, such as spears or throwing lances, ensuring that they were balanced and accurate when thrown. These abilities carried not only practical value, but also social respect. A skilled craftsperson might be sought out by others who needed tools repaired or new items made. Their knowledge became valuable, often passed on to younger members through observation and practice. Children in the camp grew up surrounded by these activities. They saw adults working with their hands every day. They learned to pick up stones, hold simple tools, and observe carefully before acting. Knowledge was not taught through formal lessons, but through presence and experience. In many ways, these quiet afternoons of craft work resembled the earliest classrooms in human history. There were no chalkboards or books, but there was the patience of elders and the curiosity of children. Each skill passed through hundreds, perhaps thousands of generations. As the sun began to set and shadows slowly covered the valley, the day's craft activities gradually slowed. Newly made tools were set aside. Pieces of leather were folded away. People gathered around the fire. The warm glow illuminated tired yet peaceful faces. In that gentle light, newly crafted tools might be passed from hand to hand for everyone to examine a new spear point, a sharp blade, or a finished leather garment. These objects were not merely products of labor. They were symbols of human creativity and adaptability. If we imagine further, we may realize that these simple craft activities laid the foundation for the entire technological history of humanity. From the first chipped stone blade, humans gradually learned to create increasingly complex tools. Over tens of thousands of years, the hands that once shaped stone beside a fire eventually led to civilizations capable of metallurgy, cities, and complex machines. Yet deep within the essence of creativity remained the same: It began with a single person sitting quietly holding a raw material and imagining what it might become. Leisure time in hunter-gatherer societies. When we think about prehistoric life, many people imagine a harsh existence where every day is a constant struggle for survival. Movies and books often portray ancient humans as always busy hunting, fleeing danger, searching for food from dawn until night. But when anthropologists studied hunter-gatherer societies more closely, they discovered something surprising. Prehistoric humans may have had more free time than we imagine. In many hunter-gatherer societies, the total time spent obtaining food often amounted to only 4 to 6 hours per day. The remaining time was not empty or meaningless. It became valuable space for rest, conversation, creativity, and social connection. After gathering plants, tracking animals, or making tools, the rhythm of camp life often slowed. The sun might still stand high in the sky, but the day's essential work had already been completed. In these hours, people did not rush toward another task. Instead, they might sit beneath the shade of trees, listen to the wind moving through grass, or simply observe the world around them. Moments like these helped the body recover and allowed the mind to grow calm. Carl Gustav Jung once suggested that humans need moments of stillness in life so that the mind can connect with deeper layers of the self. In modern society, rapid schedules often make us forget the value of quiet time. For prehistoric humans, however, these moments were a natural part of life. No clock pushed them to work more. No expectation required them to remain constantly busy. Children were often the most active during these hours. They ran around the camp, played simple games, and explored the surrounding area. Through play, children learned how to move their bodies, observe nature, and gradually acquire the skills necessary for life. Some games might imitate small hunts, where children pretended to track imaginary animals. Others might simply involve throwing stones or racing across open ground. Adults also engaged in social and creative activities. They gathered in small groups to talk. Stories might revolve around past hunts, journeys through distant landscapes, or memories from childhood. Through storytelling, knowledge and experience passed from one generation to the next. Music may also have appeared during these quiet hours. Archaeologists have discovered ancient instruments such as bone flutes dating back tens of thousands of years. This suggests that even in prehistoric times, humans created sounds and melodies. Perhaps on a quiet afternoon, someone played a simple tune on a bone flute, while others listened peacefully in the surrounding landscape. From Jung's perspective, music, storytelling, and play are not merely entertainment. They reflect deep psychological needs. They allow humans to express emotion, strengthen community identity, and connect with shared symbols of humanity. These periods of leisure also strengthened social bonds. In small groups of 20 to 50 individuals, trust and cooperation were essential for survival. Time spent talking and sharing helped maintain those relationships. If we imagine a prehistoric afternoon, the scene might appear surprisingly peaceful. Some people rest on warm rocks beneath sunlight. Children run around laughing. Someone plays a gentle melody on a primitive instrument. Others sit together talking quietly or simply gazing across the landscape. Life is not a sequence of urgent tasks. Instead, it follows a rhythm, slow, natural, and closely connected with the environment. Perhaps this rhythm helped prehistoric humans maintain a balance between work and rest. They worked when necessary, but they also allowed themselves time to relax, reflect, and enjoy the presence of their community. Looking back from the perspective of the modern world, this realization brings an interesting thought. Our ancestors, despite living in a wild environment without the comforts of civilization, may have possessed something many people seek today: the time to live slowly. During those long prehistoric afternoons when wind moved through grass and sunlight softened toward evening, people may have sat together talking, playing, and listening to simple music. In those peaceful moments, we can glimpse something very familiar about human nature: the need to rest, to connect, and to share stories beneath the wide sky of Earth. Music play and storytelling. When we imagine the lives of prehistoric humans, many people tend to think mainly about essential tasks, such as hunting, gathering food, or making tools. Yet alongside these necessary activities that sustained life, humans from a very early time also devoted time to things that might appear unnecessary for survival: music, play, and storytelling. And in many ways, these activities reveal something deeply human: the need to create, to communicate, and to share meaning with one another. Archaeologists have discovered some of the earliest musical instruments in human history, dating back more than 4,000 years. Among the most famous are flutes made from bird bones or mammoth ivory discovered in caves across Europe. These flutes were not crude objects. Their finger holes were carefully drilled, and they were crafted with remarkable precision. This suggests that prehistoric humans were not simply producing random sounds. They understood how to create melodies. Imagine an ancient evening when the sun has disappeared behind distant hills and the sky slowly fills with stars. In the warm glow of a campfire, someone in the group lifts a small bone flute to their lips and plays a simple tune. The sound is not loud like modern instruments, but it travels softly through the stillness of the night. Others sit nearby, listening quietly. The Swiss psychologist Carl Gustav Jung once suggested that music is one of the most primitive ways humans express the hidden emotions of the soul. Long before complex language or writing existed, music served as a language of feeling. Through music, people could share joy, sadness, hope, or memory, sometimes without needing words at all. Alongside music, play was also an important part of prehistoric life. Children in hunter-gatherer groups did not learn only by watching adults. They also learned through play. Games might be simple: throwing stones, racing across open ground, or pretending to track animals. Yet within those games, children gradually learned to coordinate their bodies, cooperate with others, and practice skills they would later need in adulthood. Archaeologists have even discovered ancient toys, small clay figurines, or tiny animal shapes carved from bone or stone. These objects suggest that prehistoric children also had rich, imaginative worlds of their own. They may have held those small animal figures in their hands and invented stories about them, much like children today play with toys and create imaginary worlds. But perhaps the most important activity during the quiet hours of prehistoric communities was storytelling. When night fell and people gathered around the fire, stories began to unfold. An elder might speak about a hunt that happened many years before. Another person might tell of a journey through distant lands. These stories were not told only for entertainment. They were a way for the community to remember. In a world without writing, stories became the memory of the community. Through stories repeated again and again, people learned where water could be found during the dry season, which plants were safe to eat, and which lands should be avoided because of danger. Children grew up listening to these stories, and one day they too would become storytellers for the next generation. Jung believed that storytelling and myth play an essential role in shaping the human psyche. Ancient stories often contain powerful symbols, images of heroes, journeys, challenges, and transformation. These symbols did not begin only in later civilizations. They may have appeared very early in human history. In a prehistoric evening, when firelight flickers and stars stretch across the sky, a story might begin with simple words. The storyteller might speak of a clever animal that guided the group through unknown lands, or of a brave hunter who saved a companion from danger. Over time, stories like these could become small legends within the community. Music, play, and storytelling together created a space where humans did more than simply survive. They allowed people to laugh together, share memories, and feel that they belonged to something larger than themselves. If we imagine that scene again, the flickering fire, the gentle melody of a bone flute, the laughter of children, and the quiet stories told beneath the night sky, we begin to see that prehistoric life was not only a struggle for survival, it was also a world of creativity, imagination, and human connection. Perhaps it was within moments like these that the earliest foundations of human culture began to form. From the simple melodies of ancient flutes, from children's games on open ground, and from stories shared beside the fire, humans slowly began building a shared world of meaning. And when we listen to such stories today, even through imagination, they feel strangely familiar. Because deep inside, modern humans remain much like our ancient ancestors. We still need music, we still need play, and we still need stories to understand who we are within this vast world. If we listen even more closely to those moments of music and storytelling in the prehistoric world, we may realize that they were not merely simple forms of entertainment. They also created a shared emotional space where members of the group could express joy, worries, and hopes. When a melody rose from a bone flute, or when a story began to unfold, the entire community entered a shared experience. Jung believed that humans have a deep need for symbols and stories, because through them, we understand both the world and ourselves. Stories told around prehistoric fires may have contained the earliest symbols of humanity: the guiding animal, the brave hunter, the journey across unknown lands. These images were not only imagination, they reflected how humans understood life, challenge, and transformation. During long prehistoric evenings, when firelight danced across cave walls or illuminated faces around the camp, storytelling could continue for hours. Storytellers did not rely only on words. They might use gestures, change their voices, or imitate the movements of animals within the story. Children listened with wide eyes. Adults smiled as they heard familiar tales again. Stories also helped communities remember the world around them. A tale about a dangerous river might remind people to avoid certain places. A story about a successful hunt might teach useful strategies for the future. By combining knowledge with images and emotion, storytelling became an extremely effective way of learning. Music worked in a similar way. A melody might become linked to a specific memory, a hunt, a migration, or an important moment in the life of the group. Whenever the melody was played again, the memory might return to the minds of those who listened. If we imagine a night very far in the past, perhaps tens of thousands of years ago, we might see a small group sitting around a fire in the middle of a wide valley. Above them, the sky is filled with stars. Around them lies the dark wilderness. Yet within the circle of firelight, people feel safe. Someone plays the flute. Someone tells a story. Children sit close to the flames, listening to every word. Elders nod gently, remembering the past. In that moment, the community grows stronger. And perhaps it was through such simple moments that humans developed one of their most important abilities, the ability to share meaning. Through music, play, and storytelling, humans did more than exchange information. They created a shared world of memory, symbol, and emotion. From this perspective, the ancient bone flutes, children's games on open ground, and stories told in darkness were not small details of prehistoric life. They were the first building blocks of human culture. Even today, tens of thousands of years later, humans continue doing the same things. We still listen to music, we still play games, and we still tell stories. The only difference is that today, stories may be told through books, films, or videos on screens. But deep inside, the need remains exactly the same as it was beside those ancient fires. The need to share, to listen, and to feel that we are part of a story larger than ourselves. Social life in small groups. When we imagine prehistoric life, we often focus on the vast natural landscapes surrounding ancient humans, forests, grasslands, rivers, and herds of animals moving across the land. Yet within that natural world, the most important element of human life was not land or tools. It was community. Prehistoric humans rarely lived alone. They lived in small groups, usually between 20 and 50 people, and these groups formed the center of social, emotional, and spiritual life. In groups of this size, everyone knew each other very well. There was no anonymity like in modern cities. Every person had a role, a personality, and a history remembered by others. Children grew up together, adults worked together, and elders carried long memories of the group's past. In such communities, social problems were not solved through written laws or powerful institutions. Instead, reputation and respect played central roles. Someone known for generosity and trustworthiness would gain the community's respect. Someone who often caused conflict might gradually lose that respect. Jung once suggested that humans possess a deep need for recognition within their communities. In prehistoric groups, this need was especially visible. Every action was seen and remembered by others. This created a social system where good behavior was encouraged not through law but through reputation. When conflicts arose, as they inevitably do in any group, solutions often came from the guidance of elders. Older members of the group were seen as keepers of memory and experience. They had lived through many seasons, migrations, and difficult situations. Their advice was therefore respected. Rather than harsh punishment, many hunter-gatherer societies relied on reconciliation. People were encouraged to talk, listen, and restore harmony. Because, in a small group that depended on cooperation for survival, maintaining unity was often more important than deciding who was right or wrong. These small communities also created a unique environment for children. In modern societies, raising children is usually seen as the responsibility of parents. But in many hunter-gatherer groups, children were raised by the entire community. A child playing near the camp might be watched by several adults. If the child fell, someone nearby could help. If the child asked about a tool or plant, any adult might explain. Children, therefore, grew up feeling part of a wide network of care and support. Jung believed that early experiences within a community strongly shape human psychology. When children grow up surrounded by many caring individuals, they learn trust and cooperation. Imagine again a prehistoric afternoon. Children run and play near the fire. Adults talk nearby while repairing tools or preparing food. An elder sits quietly on a rock, observing the camp with calm eyes. In such a scene, the community is not just a group of people living together. It is a living network of relationships. These small groups created a powerful sense of belonging. Everyone knew they were part of something larger. When one person succeeded, such as during a successful hunt, the entire group benefited. And when someone struggled, others often offered help. Perhaps it was within these small communities that some of the most important social traits of humanity first developed: cooperation, empathy, and the desire to support one another. When night fell and people gathered around the fire, these relationships became even more visible. Firelight illuminated familiar faces. Stories were shared. Soft laughter echoed in the darkness. In those moments within a vast and sometimes dangerous natural world, humans discovered something profoundly important: the safety of community. And perhaps this is one of the deepest reasons our species has survived for hundreds of thousands of years. Not because we are stronger than other animals, but because we know how to live together. We care for one another. We build communities where every person matters. Under the quiet stars of the prehistoric night, beside the gentle glow of the fire, humans may have felt a simple but powerful truth. Even in a vast and challenging world, they were not alone. They had one another. And that may be humanity's greatest strength. Evening around the fire, as the sun slowly sinks toward the horizon, and the pale golden light of the afternoon fades from the grasslands and hillsides, the prehistoric world begins to enter a different rhythm. Daytime is the time for movement, for gathering food, for hunting, and for crafting tools. But as darkness gradually spreads across the land, a familiar and almost sacred activity begins. People gather around the fire. In the world of prehistoric humans, fire was not simply a practical tool. It was one of the most important discoveries in human history. The light of fire pushed back the darkness. Its warmth protected people from the cold of the night, and its smoke helped keep wild animals at a distance. Yet beyond these physical benefits, fire created something much deeper, a shared space for human beings. Imagine a small camp resting in a valley or at the edge of a forest. As night falls, the sounds of nature begin to change. Insects call from the grass, wind moves gently through the trees, and somewhere far away the distant cry of a wild animal may echo through the darkness. Within this landscape, the flickering fire becomes the center of the camp. Slowly, people gather near it, sitting in a circle around its warm light. The Swiss psychologist Carl Gustav Jung once suggested that human beings naturally seek symbolic spaces, places where the mind feels safe enough to share thoughts and emotions. The circle around a fire may have been one of the earliest symbols of human community. Within that circle, the darkness of the wild world remains outside, while inside there is light, warmth, and the presence of familiar faces. As people sit around the fire, the main meal of the day often begins. Meat from the day's hunt, fish from a nearby stream, or roots and seeds gathered during the day may be placed over the flames to cook. The smell of food spreads through the cool night air. Members of the group share the meal with one another, and eating together becomes more than nourishment for the body. It strengthens the bonds within the community. In the flickering firelight, conversations begin. Someone may describe the details of the day's hunt, how they followed the tracks of an animal, how they moved carefully across the open grassland, and the final moment when the prey was brought down. Others listen quietly, sometimes nodding, sometimes smiling when they hear a familiar moment in the story. These stories are not only entertainment, they are a way of sharing experience. Children sit close to the fire, listening with curiosity. Through each story, they learn about nature, about animals, and about how to live within the wide world around them. Music may also appear during such evenings. A simple bone flute might produce a soft melody. Someone may tap two stones together or strike a piece of wood to create a rhythm. The sounds do not need to be perfect or complex. They only need to form a shared rhythm, one that the entire community can feel together. From Jung's perspective, moments like these are deeply important for the human mind. When people sit together in a safe place and share stories or music, they are not only communicating with words, they are connecting with one another on a deeper level of emotion and symbolism. The firelight itself creates a special atmosphere. As the flames move, shadows of people may dance across rocks or along the ground. For prehistoric humans, these moving shapes may have carried a mysterious feeling. They made the surrounding world seem more alive, almost as if nature itself were participating in the stories of the people. If we imagine a quiet night tens of thousands of years ago, we might see a small group gathered around a fire beneath an immense sky. Above them, countless stars stretch across the darkness, and the Milky Way flows like a river of light. Around them lies the shadow of forests and open plains. But within the circle of firelight, people do not feel alone. Someone tells a story. Someone plays a flute. Children lean against the shoulders of adults. The elders sit quietly listening and remembering distant memories. In that moment, the fire is not simply a source of warmth or light. It is the heart of the community. Perhaps it was around fires like these that many essential human traits developed: complex language, storytelling traditions, music, and a powerful sense of belonging. And when we think about it, we may notice something interesting. Even though the modern world has changed enormously, humans still carry a memory of that ancient circle. We still enjoy sitting together around a source of light, perhaps a fireplace, a candle, or even the glow of a small screen, sharing stories and music. Deep within our minds, we are still creatures of the fire circle. And perhaps during those quiet evenings in the prehistoric world, when the night wind moved gently through the grass and the fire flickered softly in the camp, human beings discovered something simple yet profound, that within the darkness of the world, the presence of one another is the warmest light of all. Night and sleep. When night truly settles over the prehistoric world, after the stories around the fire and the soft melodies that drift through the air, the rhythm of the community gradually slows. The fire continues to glow, quietly casting warm orange light into the surrounding darkness. Above the camp stretches a sky filled with stars, a sky far clearer than the one most of us see today. In this quiet setting, people begin preparing for an essential part of life: sleep. In hunter-gatherer communities, people usually sleep close together, forming a small group around the fire or within a simple shelter. Sleeping near one another has practical advantages. Human bodies give off warmth, and when several people lie close together during a cold night, their shared body heat helps maintain warmth. Yet beyond this physical benefit, sleeping close together creates a deeper feeling of safety. Jung suggested that human beings possess a very ancient need for belonging. In the darkness of night, when the outside world can feel unpredictable and sometimes dangerous, knowing that others are nearby brings calm to the mind. The steady breathing of those around us, the gentle movements as someone shifts during sleep, these small sounds create the reassuring sense that no one is alone. The fire at the center of the camp is usually kept burning throughout the night. It does not need to burn brightly as it did earlier in the evening. A soft glow is enough to provide warmth and light. But the fire cannot simply be left unattended. In many communities, different people remain awake at intervals during the night to tend the fire and watch the surroundings. The person on watch may sit quietly beside the fire, occasionally adding a few small branches to keep it alive. Meanwhile, others sleep peacefully nearby. Sometimes the watcher listens to the sounds of the night, wind moving through grass, insects calling, or the distant footsteps of an animal somewhere beyond the camp. For prehistoric people, these sounds were not necessarily frightening. They were part of a familiar world. Over many generations, humans learned to recognize which sounds were ordinary movements of nature and which might signal something that required attention. Scientists also believe that early dogs, ancestors of the modern dog, may have lived close to human camps even in very early times. At first, wolves may have approached human camps to feed on scraps of food, but gradually, a unique relationship developed. Some animals became less fearful of humans and remained near the camp. In return, their presence helped warn people when unfamiliar animals approached. A low growl, a short bark, or a sudden change in the animal's behavior could alert people that something was moving nearby in the darkness. In this way, the bond between humans and dogs may have begun during nights like these nights, when both species shared the space around a small fire beneath the vast sky. As most people in the camp fall asleep, the scene becomes very quiet. The fire burns softly, its light flickering across nearby rocks and tree trunks. Above, the sky remains filled with stars, and the Milky Way may appear like a glowing river. In such moments, prehistoric humans may have experienced a deep stillness. Jung suggested that sleep is not merely rest for the body. It is also the time when the mind enters the world of dreams. Within dreams, images from the day may blend with deeper symbols from the unconscious. Prehistoric people likely dreamed as well dreams of the animals they encountered during the day, dreams of hunts or strange symbolic images they did not fully understand. In the quiet of the camp, these dreams unfold within each sleeping mind. And when morning arrives, some people may share their dreams with others, just as many traditional cultures still do today. In this quiet night scene, a small circle of light within the vast wilderness, human beings sleep occasionally, shifting, breathing slowly as their rest deepens. One person tends the fire. A dog lies nearby, ears occasionally lifting at distant sounds. Above, everything stretches the enormous sky of the universe. Within that moment, humans may feel a simple but powerful peace, that although the world is vast and sometimes dangerous, they still possess community, fire, and sleep. Three companions that have followed humanity for tens of thousands of years. Lessons from prehistoric life. When we look back at the lives of prehistoric humans, many people first imagine a harsh world, dangerous hunts, cold nights in caves, and a constant struggle for survival. Yet when anthropologists began studying hunter-gatherer societies that survived into more recent times, a different picture slowly appeared. Life was certainly not easy for our ancestors, but it was not always an exhausting race for survival either. In fact, many hunter-gatherer societies spent only about 4 to 6 hours each day obtaining food. The remaining time was not filled with constant labor. It was often spent resting, talking, caring for children, repairing tools, or simply sitting quietly and observing the world. This rhythm created a natural balance between work and rest. Jung suggested that the human mind needs moments of stillness in order to think, imagine, and connect with deeper parts of itself. In modern life, these quiet moments are often filled with noise, work, and endless schedules. But in the prehistoric world, silence and stillness were natural parts of daily life. During such quiet moments, the human mind may have begun to create. Stories were told, songs were sung, images were drawn on stone walls. Even in very early periods of human history, we already find evidence of art, music, and symbolic expression. Another important lesson from prehistoric life is the power of community. Humans rarely lived alone. They lived in small groups where everyone depended on one another. If someone was injured and unable to hunt, others shared food. If a child lost their parents, the group helped raise the child. This created a strong network of social support. From Jung's perspective, the need to belong to a community is not merely social, it is deeply rooted in human psychology. The image of people sitting together around a fire, sharing food and stories, may be one of the most ancient symbols of safety and connection within the collective unconscious. Prehistoric life also reflects a deep connection with nature. Humans understood the rhythm of seasons, the movements of animals, and the cycles of plants. This knowledge was not written in books. It was passed from generation to generation through observation, experience, and storytelling. When elders explained how to track animals or find water during dry seasons, they were passing on more than practical knowledge. They were sharing a relationship with the natural world. In modern life, many people feel separated from nature. Yet deep within our minds, the memory of that relationship may still exist. Perhaps that is why the image of people sitting quietly around a fire beneath a star-filled sky still touches something deep within us. Because in a certain way, modern humans still carry the ancient rhythm of their ancestors, the rhythm of work, rest, creativity, and connection. And perhaps when we slow down, listen to the world around us, and spend time with those we care about, we are unknowingly returning to something our ancestors understood long ago, that a meaningful life is not measured only by achievements, by the moments we share together beneath the vast sky of this world, a very human day. When we look back at a day in the life of prehistoric humans, what may surprise us most is not the harshness of the ancient world, but how familiar it feels to our own human experience today. Even tens of thousands of years ago, our ancestors lived through things that were deeply human. They worked, they rested, they told stories, they cared for one another, and when night arrived, they slept beneath a sky full of stars. These activities unfolded in an environment very different from the modern world, yet their essence reflected some of the deepest needs of the human mind. For a long time, popular images of prehistoric people portrayed them almost as wild creatures, beings who existed only to hunt and avoid danger. But when archaeologists and anthropologists began to study more closely the traces they left behind, cave paintings, finely crafted tools, jewelry made from bone and stone, and even burial rituals, a different picture gradually emerged. Those people were not merely trying to survive. They were also creating culture, art, and meaning in their lives. Carl Gustav Jung once suggested that one of the most important characteristics of human beings is the ability to create symbols. Humans do not simply see an animal. They can also see in it a symbol of strength, wisdom, or a story. It is this ability to imagine and to symbolize that allowed humans to create art, mythology, and tradition. The cave paintings of Lascaux or Altamira are not merely pictures of animals. They may represent a way of seeing the world, a connection between humans, nature, and forces that they could feel but could not yet explain through scientific language. When a prehistoric person held a piece of charcoal and drew the shape of a bison on the wall of a cave, they were not simply recording an animal. They were creating a story, a trace of human imagination. If we imagine a full day in their lives, we might see a sequence of activities that feels very natural. Morning begins when the first light of the sun appears along the horizon. There is no alarm clock, no rigid schedule. The human body awakens according to the light and temperature of the surrounding world. Then comes the time for work. Some people go hunting, others gather plants. Some remain in the camp to craft tools or care for children. Yet even within labor, there is cooperation and communication. Work is rarely an isolated activity. It is usually part of the shared life of the community. After the tasks of the day are finished, time seems to open in a different way. People may sit and rest, repair tools, or simply observe the natural world around them. In many hunter-gatherer societies, these quiet hours make up a significant portion of the day. And it is precisely within such quiet moments that some of the most remarkable aspects of human culture may have emerged: music, play, art, and storytelling. When the sun sets, the community gathers around the fire. The fire does more than provide light and warmth. It creates a special social space. Within that circle of light, people can see each other's faces, share food, and recount the stories of the day. Perhaps someone describes the morning's hunt. Another remembers an old story about the ancestors of the group. Children listen with wide eyes to stories of animals, forest spirits, or adventures of those who lived before them. Jung believed that stories like these are not merely entertainment. They are ways through which humans pass on symbolic patterns and psychological structures from one generation to the next. Through storytelling, communities share, experience, values, and ways of understanding the world. As the night deepens, the stories gradually quiet. A few people continue to speak softly. Others lie down near the fire. The flames burn lower, their light flickering across stones and tree trunks. Above them, the night sky reveals a sight that prehistoric humans could see far more clearly than most modern cities allow: thousands of stars scattered across the heavens. Within that moment, people may feel something remarkable. They are part of a world far larger than themselves. The stars, the mountains, the rivers, and the forests, all of these form part of the great landscape within which their lives unfold. Seen from this perspective, a day in prehistoric life is not merely a sequence of survival tasks. It is a rhythm of labor, rest, creativity, and connection. And that rhythm may be one of the reasons human beings have survived and flourished for tens of thousands of years. When we look back at our ancestors, we begin to see that they were not wild creatures living meaningless lives in nature. They were imaginative human beings. They worked together. They told stories. They created art. And they knew how to sit quietly beneath a sky full of stars and feel the world around them. Perhaps that is why when we imagine a day in prehistoric life, we are not simply looking at the distant past of humanity. We are also looking at something very deep within ourselves. Because despite all the changes in society, human beings still carry very ancient needs. The need to belong to a community, the need to create and tell stories, and the need to rest after a long day beneath the sky of the world. And perhaps when we listen to the story of such a distant day, we begin to understand that our ancestors, those who lived tens of thousands of years ago, were not simply trying to survive. They were living a very human day. If we reflect a little more deeply on the image of such the day, we may notice something remarkable within it, a natural balance in human life. There was no rigid separation between work and life, between labor and meaning. Everything flowed together within a rhythm that was simple yet enduring. Jung once emphasized that modern people often experience stress and confusion because we have moved far away from many of the natural rhythms that shaped the human mind for tens of thousands of years. When we observe the lives of our ancestors, we see a different rhythm of time, one not divided by clocks and crowded schedules, but guided by sunlight, seasonal changes, and the natural needs of the community. In a prehistoric day, work was not simply a task to be completed. It was part of cooperation. When a group of people followed the tracks of an animal across the grasslands, they were not only hunting, they were sharing an experience, learning from one another, and strengthening the bonds within their community. Similarly, gathering plants, crafting tools, or preparing food were rarely solitary tasks. These activities took place within the shared space of the group, where people talked, exchanged knowledge, and watched younger members learn. Within such everyday activities, human culture was formed and sustained. Without formal schools or books, knowledge still passed from one generation to the next through observation, imitation, and storytelling. Jung believed that such forms of learning are powerful precisely because they are rooted in lived experience. A child does not simply hear how to track an animal. They watch adults do it. They follow them. They make mistakes. And gradually, they learn how to understand the world. In that process, the child does not merely acquire survival skills. They learn how to become part of a community. In this way, a prehistoric day is not a series of disconnected tasks. It is a complete circle of human life. It begins with waking beneath the dawn light. It continues through work and exploration. It expands into moments of creativity and communication, and it ends with rest beneath the night sky. Perhaps it is within that circle that human beings developed many of the qualities that define our species' imagination, compassion, cooperation, and the search for meaning. When we picture those ancient people lying down around a small fire beneath a sky filled with stars, we may feel something profound. Despite the tens of thousands of years that separate us, the essential elements of being human remain the same. We still need community. We still need stories. We still need quiet moments for rest and reflection. Perhaps that is why when we listen to stories about our ancestors, we are not only learning about history, we are also remembering a very ancient part of ourselves. A part of the mind still remembers the rhythm of fire in the night, the gentle voices of community, and the peace of sleeping beneath the wide sky of the world. And perhaps in the quiet of stories like this one, we may realize that a day in the life of our ancestors, a day of work, rest, creativity, and connection, is also a simple and profound image of what it means to be human. As we bring this small journey through a day in prehistoric life to a close, perhaps the most memorable thing is not the difference between them and us, but the deep similarity. Tens of thousands of years have passed. Cities have risen. Technology has transformed nearly every aspect of life, yet the most basic needs of human beings remain surprisingly unchanged. Our ancestors woke with the dawn, worked together to find food, shared stories and experiences, and when night arrived, they gathered around the fire before falling asleep beneath the stars. Their lives may have been simpler, but they contained elements that still feel deeply familiar: work, rest, creativity, and connection with others. Jung once wrote that within the human mind, there exists a deeper layer he called the collective unconscious, a place where ancient images and memories of humanity continue to live. Perhaps that is why when we hear stories about our ancestors living in forests beside fires beneath star-filled skies, something within us feels strangely familiar. We may no longer live in caves or camps in the wilderness, but the human mind still carries those ancient rhythms. We still seek community. We still tell stories. We still feel comfort when we sit beside a gentle light and listen to a calm voice describing the world. Perhaps this reminds us that human beings are not defined only by technology or large cities. Deep within, we are still creatures, shaped by tens of thousands of years of living together, sharing experiences, and finding meaning through stories. And if we imagine once more that distant night, a group of people sitting around a fire after a long day, we might notice that they are not so different from us. Someone is telling a story. Someone is laughing softly. Someone has already begun to feel sleepy. The fire glows quietly. The night sky stretches above them, and the community slowly drifts into the stillness of night. Moments like these may have formed the foundations of many elements of human culture, sharing empathy and the feeling that we are not alone in this vast world. When we listen to the story of a day in our ancestors' lives, we are also looking back at the long journey of humanity, from the first footsteps across ancient grasslands to the complex world we live in today. Yet the story also reminds us of something simple. Sometimes the most important things in life are not the most complicated ones. They are the small moments when we work together, when we share a story, when we rest after a long day. And now, as this story slowly comes to an end, perhaps you can imagine yourself sitting beside a small fire in the quiet night of the ancient world. There is no city noise, no electric lights, only the warm glow of the fire, the gentle sound of the wind and a sky filled with stars stretching above. Let your mind slow down. Let the thoughts of the day gradually settle. Just as our ancestors did for tens of thousands of years, you can allow your body and mind to rest. If you enjoy gentle and slow stories like this, stories that help the mind relax and drift towards sleep, remember to subscribe to the channel Stories for Sleep, so you don't miss future journeys through history, science, and the human mind. Thank you for spending this time listening. And now, as the story comes to an end, allow your eyes to close softly. May you have a deep and peaceful sleep. Good night.